Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic, is a game that puts you in charge of building up a Soviet city. With the superior planned economy, you can flex the power of socialism on those misguided free market fools. This game is leaving early access with its 1.0 update, so I finally decided to jump in and take a crack at building my socialist utopia. After doing 2/3 of the tutorial, I decided I was ready to be put in charge of thousands of people's lives. I also made the brilliant decision to make my first attempt at building a city in the middle of Siberia and played on slightly modified medium difficulty settings. In case you were unaware, Siberia has a lot of land and I can start building anywhere on this map. I only get 4 million rubles and $1.3 million as my starting budget, and while that sounds like a lot of money, you will see that you can go through that very fast. I turned off tech research earlier because I wanted to start with the ability to see where the best spots for resources were on the map to plan my city. I noticed that the village of Beryoshov was near a decent deposit of iron and coal, so this was where my city would be. Now, what would happen to the people already living here? Well, we would upgrade their home from their wasteful, excessive houses to cozy luxury apartments. By putting everyone so close together, we're building a stronger community here. Since I'm so responsible with my money, I decided the best way to get power for this town of a few hundred people was a nuclear reactor. The Treasury Department may have had some concerns about what I just spent a quarter of my starting rubles on, but we can't put a price on saving the planet from global warming. As that was built, I had to clean up the old, inefficient city design in Beryoshov to make room for glorious Soviet architecture. For some reason, there were reports of people being unhappy in the new apartments, but I know what's going on. These poor workers are still haunted by decadent bourgeois thoughts. Fortunately, this utopia has ways to help people who are struggling with liberalism and set them on the right path. But the real enemy in this game ain't even liberalism, it's roads, because they work as consistently as a McDonald's ice cream machine. I'm just trying to build a pedestrian road to the main street between these apartments, and despite there obviously being enough space for the road to go through and connect, it won't do it. Roads have a mind of their own in this game, and when you try to make them do something they don't want to do, they will do it as incompetently as possible to make you give up. As you can see, I made both roads literally touch each other, but the game refuses to recognize they're connected, so people can't walk this way. I just have to accept at this point that I lost. If you play this game, just accept you'll never fully control the roads. Now that we have some homes for people in this city, we have to give them something to do, so I work on setting up the steel mill with an iron and coal mine. Now I'm getting into the main course of this game, logistics and supply chains. The greatest challenge of playing this game is how to most efficiently move goods around your city, like getting the iron and coal I'm mining to the steel mill. And with such a small workforce, I'm easily able to keep up production in the steel mill by just moving the goods with trucks. Now that I've built an economy, I need some education, so I built some schools and, most importantly, a Communist Party headquarters, so we can properly supervise these workers and protect them from subversive thoughts. They might say stupid stuff like an average lifespan of 46 years is bad for a city. So, surprisingly, there aren't many engineers who want to come to Siberia to run a nuclear power plant. So I'm constantly having problems where there are no engineers to work here and the town has no power. This forced me to build a coal power plant as a reliable source of power. And as this builds, I realize that I have gone through almost all my starting rubles and I haven't made any money back in the past 3 months, so I have to get some income fast. You could say that perhaps maybe the nuclear power plant was not an effective use of funds, but it's already here. I just gotta roll with it. To get rubles, I need to export goods to this customs office, and the only goods that I made that were worth something was steel. I was running out of rubles fast, but I had $1 million in reserve, so I used that money to build a railroad from my steel mill to the customs office. It cost 700 grand to build this railroad and buy the trains, but I was happy when it was done. I watched the train take my steel to the border to sell it off, and I got myself a nice 8,000 rubles. Yeah, I'm still a bit in the red, but this is how greatness starts. If I want to make more money, I'm gonna need to make more steel, and right now, trucks can't keep up with the resource demand of the steel mill. I had to make conveyor belts that will automatically move resources from the mines to the factory. However, I made the input area of the factory face the exact opposite direction of the resources it needs because I'm such a smart individual who loves to plan ahead. So I have to build this super jank route around the factory. So far, I only hook up the coal mine, so the trucks I have can focus on just delivering the iron to the mill. Just as I solve one problem, another pops up. Unemployment ramps up, and I'm confused because there are plenty of jobs in the mines and factory, but it's because a bunch of workers can't work since they're sick. So a big challenge I didn't think of when playing in Siberia was that it can get a bit cold here. Well, maybe more than a bit. And when it gets cold, people tend to get sick, and due to budget constraints, I had neglected to build a hospital since I was more focused on making money. But since my revenue was being heavily affected by this, I had no choice but to build a hospital to treat the workers. Also, since I am so caring, I built a heating plant so people's apartments aren't in sub-zero temperatures. As I looked around to see how the buildings were doing after I set this all up, I realized that they had no power because nobody was working in the power plants. So I checked around some more in the town and realized that all the buildings and buses were empty. I was wondering, where did everybody go? Bingo? But my average lifespan falling to 44.5 was a good hint of what happened. The population graph said it all. Once the temperature started dropping, so did the bodies, and those who had the strength just left to never be seen again. Even though my socialist utopia was looking like Chernobyl, I wasn't ready to give up. Yet. There were still a lot of people around the map in small villages, so I would encourage them to pack up their stuff and move to my city. But doing it this way would take way too much time because of the UI. I still had some money left, and I could just spend it to invite a bunch of immigrants here. We flash 100 rubles in some people's faces, and they move to one of the most inhospitable areas in the world. The Soviet mindset's just built different. It was a brilliant economic move by me because as soon as they came over, they immediately had to spend that money on medicine since they get sick from the cold. There just wasn't enough people to work all the necessary infrastructure, so everyone was living like this. And the results were predictable. Still wasn't over for me yet, cause I discovered you can take loans in this game, and I had a plan to bring life back to this town. I doubled down on inviting immigrants, spending half of the money just on getting people here. Vital infrastructure was working again, allowing people to live here longer than a week. I made an even larger heating plant to warm the population so we can go back to making goods instead of people popsicles. I took another loan to invite more people and got ready for the next year. 1980 may have been a rough start for us, but I had hoped that in 1981 things would turn around with the vital lessons I learned here, like people need to stay warm during the winter. Despite it being negative 45 degrees Celsius and snowing, someone manages to start a fire in this town. And I'm gonna assume the weather bought me a lot of time because I was able to build a whole fire department before that building burnt down. This town was coming back to life at least. People had jobs and a home, but those needy workers kept going on and on about how they were bored and had nothing to do in the city, even though there was always more steel to be made. But to them, making steel isn't fun. I don't get what they're on about, since it's super fun watching my bank account go higher, but since we're all about the people here, I put down a theater for them to watch some shows. 1981 was off to a good start, I could make a profit, and the population was slowly recovering from the bad times in winter. After taking another loan, I decided to invest in more advanced industry to make more off of exports by building a mechanical components factory. They were worth nearly double the value of steel, so I could make a lot more money selling both steel and components. Though there were issues with the train siphoning all the steel from the mechanical components factory, the money I made was still good. But then I ran into a problem that many people can relate to, where I would try to spend money I don't have. A little project here and there to make the people happier, and then boom, no money. Besides not being able to build, it also means I can't import stuff. And in case you haven't noticed, I haven't built a single farm out here. I have to import all my food, and I don't want to become a statistic out here. There is also the issue of my debt. I don't want people coming for me, so I just have to take out another loan to repay my previous loan. Don't worry, this business strategy can't go badly for me. But all the money was gone by September. I have no idea how it happened, but it definitely wasn't anything I did, because if I took responsibility, then it's my fault. So I know I need to take another loan, but I need to decide what I'm gonna do with it. 1981 has not gone as well as I imagined, and the economic planning of this city could be described as needing improvement. I want to focus on producing more industrial goods to export, since I can import raw materials at a low cost. I take another loan and place down a chemical plant, along with constructing a new neighborhood to make consumer goods. I spent a lot of money importing food and clothes for people, so I can save money by making those locally and importing the crops and fabric needed to make those items. As the steel mill got more people working in it, I noticed there was an iron bottleneck forming because not enough people were working in the mines. I thought I'd just build some housing up and things would get better, but no. Now that people live up there, they want a grocery store, schools for their kids, and a bar to drink at because they're iron miners in the middle of Siberia. And for doing all of this to make it livable up here, what do I get? The budget is disappearing pretty fast now, and my steel production is just getting worse. Now the coal miners are slacking on the job. Even though I got rid of the coal power plant a while back, somehow I got bottlenecked on coal production. The loans are really starting to take their toll on my income. I'm able to make decent money on exports, but the bank wastes no time getting their due rubles. Since I'm waist deep in debt, I might as well go chest deep. The new plan with this loan is to invest in tourism, because I mean, look at this place. It's so beautiful. Who wouldn't want to go here with their spouse or family? I expand the city to make a tourist sector with a hotel and a sight tower to overlook the beautiful Siberian beach. As the snow melted in the spring, I was blown away to see that barely anybody had come to the hotel. And even worse, the few people who did come weren't getting service because no one worked here. These tourists must be really bad if people would rather work in mines than service them. I still need their money, so I build more attractions in the area to attract visitors, and once those finish, it does work. We just needed to get foreigners to serve the tourists. By the end of June, the money situation is looking a lot better. Though it kinda hurts that after going through 1,000,000 rubles to build up tourism, I only have an extra 3,000 a month to show for it. Then, I don't know what happened. I saw my money going up, and despite needing to save money, a voice in my head told me I should build a radio station for the people. So now I'm out nearly 500,000 for a radio station with barely any listeners, and nobody wants to work for. The loan repayments are only getting higher and higher, and my main income source, the steel mill, has outscaled my mining, forcing me to import the resources to keep up production to export on my trains. But it hasn't scaled enough because despite the spikes in my money, the trend is still going down. And the next month, as I see my money go to zero, I know what I have to do. I'm used to the routine, put my finest suit on, go to the bank, and since they recognize my face at this point, they just ask me how much I need. This money needed to be spent on optimizing the industry I already had. It's kind of embarrassing that I have a warehouse full of goods worth nearly 100,000 rubles. So I bought a bunch of big rigs to get that stuff out of the country. I needed to get my import expenses down as well, so I built another coal processing plant that would easily supply enough coal to the steel mill and the rest of the city, making it so I wouldn't need to import anymore. This gave me so much extra coal, I started thinking it'd be stupid to not export all this surplus. So I spent way too much time trying to set up a coal tray with my trains because the railway logic was throwing a tantrum over connecting this building to the train track. Coal really isn't worth that much on the market, but every ruble counts when I'm in the middle of a debt spiral. I checked a notification that a heat station wasn't producing anymore, and when I checked it out, it said it had no power and no workers, which seemed weird because the nuclear power plant was working just fine. Then I checked nearby buildings and saw the same thing. It's only when I checked the electricity map that I realized this neighborhood had been disconnected from the power grid due to some construction. I like how you can see the exact moment it happened on the population graph, but this was clearly an act of sabotage by subversive forces, and I need to go on the hunt to find out who did this. I'm supposed to be optimizing my economy with this loan, but all I've optimized is my path to bankruptcy. I lost my consumer goods industry by freezing all the workers in my food and clothes factories. The coal train keeps having collision issues with the steel train because I have no idea how to set up train signals, which slows my exports. Even worse, it turns out that the coal train was a complete waste of time because now I'm having to buy back the coal I'm selling abroad for the steel mill and for a net loss. Yep, I basically spent 200,000 in this game to basically... You guys should know what came next. I'm just trying to produce as much steel as possible to export since it's my most scalable industry I have. I'm gonna get anyone I can in this city because I need more workers. But the game itself was against me because the conveyor belt I was using just stopped moving iron to the factory. But I'm pretty proud that I threaded this conveyor belt needle through my city to get the iron flowing again to the steel mill. The production was going up, but what I really don't understand in this game is how the train traffic works. I have two trains moving steel, but they keep colliding with each other, and I don't understand how to use the lights to stop it, while also not having it idle for too long. So I'd appreciate any advice you can give me in the comments about this. But I have to face the facts. Fixing the trains won't save the city. I can't keep up with my loan payments, and I can't keep deluding myself that I'm one loan away from economic stability. So I'm ready to accept defeat with this city. Despite losing, I really like workers and resources. I found it more fun than City Skylines, mainly because it's more in depth about how you plan out your city. Still, it's a really jank game that definitely isn't easy to learn, but once you get over the initial difficulty cliff, there's a lot of fun here. I would appreciate advice from people who have been playing this game for a while on how to build a city better because I want to play more of this, and if this video were to get 5,000 likes, I'd definitely make another video about this game doing a cool challenge. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I like making videos about different games, so I really appreciate it if you made it to this point. If you can, consider joining my Patreon so I can feel confident in experimenting with new content instead of chasing the algorithm. Anything helps there, and I'm super thankful to the alumni funding my socialist dreams. Make sure you're subscribed too because there's more content coming soon, and I hope to see you again then.